Hi, and welcome to our lesson over order of operations. I know that this is something that you guys have learned before, but it doesn't hurt to just go back and have a quick review, just to kind of go over what we already know, and also to talk about some teaching strategies as well. Okay, so many of you guys may have learned order of operations through the acronym PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Some of you guys, just depending on where you went to school, may have also heard GEMDAS. So I asked this question in the discussion because I just wanted to know where we're all coming from. So if you learned something completely different, then please share because I would like to know. So I'll just go through these. So parentheses is going to include all grouping symbols. So this includes, parentheses, brackets, braces, square root symbols, absolute values. All of those are all considered grouping symbols. So a lot of teachers are switching from PEMDAS with just parentheses to GEMDAS because it's more like grouping operations. Okay. Second is exponents. So we simplify all of our exponents, and this also includes taking the square root. Because if you think about it, technically, like the square root of x is the same thing as x to the 1/2 power. So that's technically still an exponent, and that's a grouping symbol. So multiplication and division work left to right. Same thing with addition and subtraction. So there's a major misconception with students. A lot of times they think that multiplication is going to come before division, and addition comes before subtraction. But that's not necessarily the case. It's just dependent on the order. Okay, so let's look at some of these graphic organizers. So this first one, the pyramid, was actually made by Carol Williams. She's in the math department at Texas Tech. So she kind of came up with this one on her own, working with students over time, which looks a whole lot like this graphic organizer over here, which is taught in a lot of Texas public schools, and a lot of elementary and middle school teachers teach it this way now, just because so many students had so many misconceptions. So whether it's GEMDAS or PEMDAS, we fill this in, kind of looks like a little hopscotch. So P for parentheses, E exponents, M, D, A, S. And then right here we emphasize that that's going to be left to right, just depending on what's left over. So working a problem using order of operations is kind of like, like you're peeling the layers off. You work everything inside the grouping symbols and under the square roots, and then you apply all the exponents. So you're just unraveling all of the layers. We talked about this, how same thing, the radicand raised to the 1/2 power is actually what we have when we're taking a square root. And then lastly, we work all the multiplication and division expressions from left to right. And then we work all the addition and subtraction from left to right. All right. Oops. Okay. Just a very quick overview of absolute values. So this is kind of what we see kindergarten to second grade. You can teach a kindergartner what absolute value is by basically telling them it makes the number positive. So that is totally understandable to them. They're like, okay, it's like a machine. You put the number in, comes out positive. From second grade to eighth grade, you can describe to a student, hey, it's the distance from 0. You can draw out a number line and say, all right, well, even though this over here is -2, can we actually count distance as a negative number? They're usually like, no, because distance isn't negative. So you can talk about that usually till 8th grade. And I say 8th grade because a pre-AP 8th grader would be taking like algebra. So in algebra, students might start seeing these guys. So the absolute value, it's the same definition, just a little bit more technical. So it says that, negative x, if x is less than 0, and x if x is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? So these are all just quick recaps of what you guys should know, but if it's ever something that you don't, I don't want you to feel like in this class, like, you know, we don't have help. You guys have plenty of help, and always ask questions. All right, let's just get right into it. We're going to start doing some examples using order of operations, and I'm going to do quite a few of these just to kind of get us in the hang of it. So at any point, of course, you guys can pause the video, go work it out on your own, unpause it, and see if we get the same answer, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do over to the side is I'm going to write out my PEMDAS. All right, and so this first problem, obviously we see those parentheses. So this tells me right away I've got to take care of that. So looking inside of the parentheses, I see that I'm just subtracting and adding. So according to this, I'm going to do this left to right. So it's going to be 6 minus 4, which is 2. And then I just bring down my plus 2. I'm not quite done with that yet, so I'm just going to add that together. Now my parentheses are gone. But I haven't taken care of anything in front of it, so now I've got to bring everything down. So now I'm still looking at my order of operations. Multiplication and division is going to come before addition. So really it's kind of like I'm looking at this first. So again, I'm just going left to right. 12 divided by 3 will give me 4. Bring down the times 2 plus 4. Since I haven't taken care of all the multiplication and division, I need to still do that. So 4 times 2 is 8. Then 8 plus 4 will give me 12. There's my answer. Now you guys can go out and conquer all of those brain teasers that you see online. I see a bunch of them. People just in the comments just continue to go, no, the answer is this and the answer is that. And so I don't know. It always amazes me how many different answers people can get. All right. So number 1, down here, again, we're just simplifying. I look at it. I see no grouping symbols. So I look for exponents. I see no exponents. So we're just going to start with multiplication and division. So here I see 3 times 10. So I'm going to take care of that. That's going to give me 30 plus 2. All right. So then since I just have subtraction and addition left, I'm just going to take care of these left to right. So 17 minus 30 is going to give me negative 13 plus 2. So taking care of that, negative 13 plus 2 is just negative 11. Okay. Example 2. We do have grouping symbols here, but remember that also just means multiplication, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that first. So that's going to yield negative 18. And then you have this funky minus a negative. Okay, so think of a number line. If I'm subtracting, I'm going to the left. Now you're telling it to basically do the opposite, right? Reverse that. So if I reverse going to the left, then I'm just going to end up going to the right. So subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding. I kind of think about it like if you're in a car. If you're already in reverse and somebody says reverse that, well, okay, now I'm going forward. Or you could just make this big ugly plus sign. Okay, so now I have negative 12 plus 18. I'll clean that up a little bit. Looks scary. All right, and then that just gives me 6. Not so bad. Number 3. Let's go ahead and look again. I do not have grouping symbols, no exponents, but I do see multiplication and division over here. Again, I'm just going to take care of that left to right. So that 14 plus is just going to hang out for a second while I take care of the 12 divided by 2, which gives me 6. Still have times 4. 14 is still hanging out. 6 times 4 gives me 24. I add those up and I get 38. Okay. Again, pause here, or go back, whatever you need to do. And I'm always available for questions. Okay, 3 more problems. So again, let's write out our PEMDAS somewhere I can see it. All right. Parentheses, got them right away. 13 minus 12 is going to give me 11. Okay, bring everything down. 14 divided by 2. So again, we know division is going to happen before that addition. So I like to put little parentheses so I know what's next. 11 plus 14 divided by 2 is 7. Add those up and I get 18. Number 5. So we are taking care of everything in the parentheses first. Since it's addition and subtraction, I'm going to go left to right again. So we'll start with the 11 plus 55, which gives us 66. Subtract the 6 divided by 30. So 66 minus 6 gives us 60 divided by 30. We'll get a nice whole number of 2. And then the last problem, we see the absolute value of 6 minus 9. So that does count as, like we said, parentheses is actually grouping symbols. So 6 minus 9 is negative 3, and I'm going to keep it in the absolute value symbol until I've cleared that, because it's still in operation. 6 times 2 minus 4. Okay. So the absolute value of 3 is going to be positive 3. All right, and now I've got this crazy just mix of multiplication and division till I ultimately have subtraction. So I have to take care of all of that before I subtract 4. So let's start with 3 times 4, which is 12, divided by 6 times 2 minus 4. Okay. So now I'm going to take care of this. 12 divided by 6 is going to give me 2. I still need to multiply 2 and then subtract 4. So I'm going to multiply these together. 4 minus 4. And that whole mess gave me 0. All right. I believe that is it for this lesson. If you guys have any additional questions, post in the discussion board or send me an email.